Number 10 leads us to James Russell. James Russell, a 39-year-old inmate serving his 4th prison term, managed to break out of the Olympics Correction Center. However, luck was not on his side. While still wearing his prison uniform, Russell approached the cabin and knocked on the door, hoping to borrow a cell phone. But to his amazement, the person who answered the door happened to be a correctional officer from the same facility that he just escaped from. Of course, the correctional officer, he promptly recognized Russell in his unmistakable prison attire and swiftly took action to apprehend him once again. As a result, Russell's freedom was short-lived and he was rearrested by the alert guard. From there, let's take a look at Lester and Michael. Lester Burns and Michael Coleman, renowned for their daring van escape, successfully executed their plan to break out of the prison. With the help of luck and determination, they managed to infiltrate the prison van, start the engine, and commence their getaway. But unfortunate circumstances unfolded when an unknown prisoner, unbeknownst to Burns and Coleman, was also present inside the van. They had no idea. This individual had absolutely no intention of partaking in the escape and strongly opposed the entire plan. Prompted by a sense of responsibility, the reluctant prisoner contacted emergency services by dialing 911 to report the escape. Consequently, all 3 individuals involved in the incident were captured. Coming up at the number 8 spot, we have Lorenzo Pollard. Imprisoned in Missouri, Lorenzo Pollard employed improvised nunchucks crafted from bed sheets and a chair to engage in a confrontation with prison guards, ultimately enabling him to escape. Almost. Lorenzo, he showcased his proficiency in combat, which played a role in his initial success in eluding prison security. Nevertheless, though, his downfall stemmed from underestimating the vigilance of prison security forces. Shortly after Lorenzo managed to break free, the entire security force promptly mobilized, leading to his recapture not long after his escape. He does get an A for effort though. Come on, he created nunchucks out of bed sheets and a chair. Moving on to the number 7 spot, we have Curtis Ray Watson. In a small rural community in Tennessee, Curtis Ray Watson, a detainee, he successfully escaped prison following his malicious actions towards and the subsequent end of life of a prison official. Engaged in his regular lawn duties alongside other inmates, Curtis, he made a fateful decision to execute a reckless act. According to reports, Curtis SA'd and took the life of the prison executive, seizing the opportunity to break free once the path was clear. Utilizing a tractor as his means of transportation, he fled into the surrounding fields. Such decisive and rapid actions deemed Curtis a highly dangerous inmate. After eluding authorities for 5 days, Curtis was eventually apprehended and returned to custody. Coming down to the number 6 spot, we have Christopher Bosacci. He was somebody who was held at the Elmwood Correction Facility for petty theft and was nearing his release date actually. But he ended up displaying a lack of wisdom and impatience by proceeding with an ill-conceived escape plan that ended in utter failure. Without realizing it, Bosacci, he decided to scale the prison security fences, unaware that surveillance cameras had recently been installed along the perimeter. He did manage to successfully climb the first 2 lines of security though, but his next action of grabbing onto a power line was captured on camera. His escape attempt was promptly disrupted, of course, and he never managed to breach the prison perimeter. I mean, if you were in prison, all you had to do is just wait a little bit longer. You would have been free. Number 9 leads us to the Gresham stalker. A woman identified only as Jen in Gresham, Oregon, endured months of threats from an unidentified stalker. The ordeal began with text messages originating from disposable phones, which escalated to including pictures of familiar places, nearby street signs, as well as increasingly harsh threats towards her. But Jen, she finally caught a glimpse of him on surveillance footage outside of her grandparents' house, in which she felt safe, but no, he figured out that she was there and continued to stalk her. The surveillance video that was captured shows the stalker leaving a note on the door containing the message, "Baby, you should have known that I'd find you. Soon you will be mine." The stalker's hands, face, and head are concealed, but Jen is hopeful that somebody will recognize the stalker and expose his identity. Coming down to the number 4 spot, here we have the Birmingham stalker. One neighbor's trust was betrayed completely by a creepy stalker who was caught on camera attempting to remove secret listening devices that he planted in her home. Now, the events took place in Birmingham, England, involving William Nolan, his wife, and their neighbor Lee Jones. Lee was someone who entrusted the Nolans with a key to her house so that they could feed her cats while she was away. However, upon her return, she actually found a voice recorder taped under her coffee table, and she also found another one hidden behind the headboard in her bedroom. So from there, Lee set up covert webcams throughout her home, and after reviewing the recorded footage, Lee identified William Nolan as the person that was inside her house. And in the footage, she saw him retrieving the hidden recording devices. William Nolan is a former security guard, and he pleaded guilty to the charges of stalking without fair alarm or distress. Number 3 takes us to the Raducanu stalker. A 35-year-old man named Amrit Megar had been found guilty of stalking tennis star Emma Raducanu. Emma Raducanu, who gained international recognition for her victory at the 2021 US Open, revealed that she now feels afraid to go out alone due to the stalking incidents. Amrit Megar had traveled to the London suburb where Emma lives with her parents, and he visited her address multiple times, leaving notes such as 23 miles walked for you and you deserve love. And also during his last visit, he decorated a tree in the Raducanu family's front garden with Christmas lights on it. He also stole a shoe, mistakenly believing it belonged to Emma, but it actually belonged to her dad. And his actions were captured on the home's door camera. Number 2 leads us to the 3M stalker. Robert T. Cessna, who was a vice president at the company 3M Co., had been accused of stalking a 24-year-old woman and peeping into the windows of her duplex in Hudson, Wisconsin. The charges stem from incidences in February 2022, and this was when a woman and her roommate noticed footprints leading to their kitchen and living room, indicating that somebody had been looking into their window. So what did they do? They installed surveillance cameras, and on a later occasion, they saw on surveillance camera that a man was approaching their window and attempting to look inside before he left. So the video footage was shared with the neighborhood to alert other residents. And based on the surveillance footage and the description provided by the women, officers were able to link it back to Robert Cessna. The stalker in at the number 1 spot is the Gusti Janis stalker. It's definitely distressing to hear about Gusti Janis's experience of being stalked and terrified, because she posted all of this in viral TikTok videos. And the fact that there was another woman from Gusti's former neighborhood that identified a potential connection between the man in Gusti's videos and someone who had been following her for several years adds a concerning element to this whole situation. It seems like there was this ongoing investigation involving this individual, and it suggests that authorities have been aware of this person's activities for quite some time, not just in Gusti Janis's case. Either way, Gusti Janis, she showed camera footage where the stalker arrived at her home shortly after her return home and then watched her through the window at nighttime. But the thing is, no one's able to identify the stalker here. Starting at number 10, we have Sergei Anatolievich Torup. Back on August 18th, 1990, he received a revelation from God that changed his life and thousands of people who believe in him. Also known by his followers as Vissarion, or the teacher, Sergei Anatolievich Torup claims to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, and he started his own church, and he calls it the Church of the Last Testament. He and his followers live in Petropavlovka, and it's pretty much a man-made utopia where eating meat, drinking, and smoking, and even cursing is absolutely forbidden. The community is also self-sufficient. Now, before Sergei became Vissarion, he worked as a traffic officer for the USSR. So when the Soviet Union was dissolved, he ended up losing his job. And after that, he received this divine revelation that led him to claim that he was Jesus Christ. An interesting belief in his church is that they believe in outer space mind, or aliens. Moving on now to number 9, we have Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez. Back in the year 2011, Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez, he tried to assassinate President Barack Obama. Really, he fired 9 shots at the White House. Fortunately, nobody got hurt. President Barack Obama, as you know, he's still alive, as well as his wife and his family, and they were in San Diego at the time, and 5 days after this guy was caught. So why did he try to do this anyways? Well, apparently he believed that Obama was the Antichrist. And on top of that, he also believed that he was the reincarnation of Jesus, whose mission was to stop the Antichrist from ruling the world. If he really was the Christ, he would know that Barack Obama wasn't in the White House at the time he tried to shoot it up. But in any case, let's continue with this guy's story. He even made a video about this, and the recording in it, he says, "It's not just a coincidence that I look like Jesus. I'm the modern day Jesus Christ that you all have been waiting for." Things get a little bit more strange with Wayne Bent. Now, Wayne Bent, also known as Michael Travesser, he's the leader of the Lord Our Righteousness Church, and this is based in New Mexico. Now, before Wayne Bent founded the group back in the year 1987, he served as a Seventh-day Adventist Christian pastor, and it was in 2000 that he said that God showed him a divine revelation that he actually was Jesus Christ. Since the year 2008, Wayne Bent has been in prison, serving a 10-year sentence for laying with teenage female followers. And according to the Albuquerque Journal, he was released on supervised parole back in the year 2016. Now, despite this, he continues to claim to be the Messiah, and he holds on to the belief that he is innocent and that the government is just trying to persecute him. Next up at number 7, we have Jose Luis de Jesus Miranda. Now, we have a guy that I guess couldn't really make up his mind. Jose Luis de Jesus Miranda says that he was the Messiah and also that he was the Antichrist. He even got the number 666 tattooed on his arm. He's the leader of the church called Growing in Grace in Miami, Florida. And back in the year 2007, 30 of his members of the church decided to also get 666 tattooed on their bodies as a sign of their devotion and their love and admiration for him. Now, in addition to claiming that he's the Messiah as well as the Antichrist all in one, he also taught that sin and Satan don't actually exist. He believes that he, as well as his followers, can do absolutely nothing wrong in God's eyes, and he received this divine revelation back in the year 1973, and he passed away in the year 2013. Apollo Kibaloy comes in at number 6. Apollo Kibaloy was a founder and leader of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name. That's the name of the church, by the way. And that's based in the Philippines. Now, Apollo Kibaloy, he attracted about 6 million followers. 4 million of them are estimated to be in the Philippines, and the other 2 million are in other places. Aside from being the head of this church, he also claims to be the appointed Son of God, or the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. He also claims that God appointed him to be the savior of the non-Jewish people. Now, back in the year 2005, on April 13th, Apollo Kibaloy, he declared that God had entrusted him with the kingship. Now, this kingship specifically is supposedly given to him, and that gives him authority to govern God's kingdom as well as execute God's laws all around the world. He also claimed that since the year 2005, he's been living in a state of sinless existence. So after being a Christian preacher for some time, he left his church and then he formed his own church, and that was established back on September 1st of 1985.
Record halfway in at number 5 is Bangladesh is the world's thinnest nation. Yep, you heard that right. It's the thinnest nation in terms of BMI, which stands for, of course, body mass index. Body mass index, or BMI, is a measurement of someone's weight in regards to their height. It is an indicator of the person's total body fat. So when in 2010, the national BMI average of Bangladeshi people was measured at 20.5 for women and 20.4 for men, that alone set a new world record and made the country the thinnest nation on the planet. This is one of the only few world records that wasn't intentionally set. Like, nobody went out to say, well, let's be the thinnest nation on the planet. No, it didn't happen like that. Number 4 is the longest human chain. This is an incredible record. Bangladesh is one of the most populated countries in the world. And back in the year 2004, one of Bangladesh's world records was set when over 5 million people joined their hands together. They form the longest human chain in the entire world, and it stretched from Teknaf to Tentulia. The 1,050 kilometer long human chain stretched across the entire country from one end of Bangladesh to the other end. Even after so many years have passed, it's still one of the most surprising events that has ever happened in the world. All right, guys, so next up, these next 3 world records are set by one single person. So let's introduce this amazing guy. His name is Mahmudul Hassan Faisal. He has the record for the most football arm rolls in 30 seconds. At the age of 18 years old, Mahmudul Hassan Faisal from Magura, Bangladesh, he set his 5th world record. Yeah, he has 5 of them. That's a lot for one person. Either way, he set his 5th one, and this record was for the most football arm rolls in 30 seconds by spinning a ball with his left hand 62 times within a 30-second time period. Now, the world record at number 2 is from the same guy, but this is for the most football arm rolls in 1 minute. Guinness World Record officials recognize his first world record, the most football arm rolls in 1 minute, back in August of 2018, and he did this 134 times. Now, the number 1, we end this episode off with catching a basketball with your neck. Yeah, he has this world record. He broke the previous record of catching a basketball with your neck 27 times in a minute by doing it 34 times in a minute on May 3rd, 2019. He's definitely expressed that he's had a major interest in sports all of his life, and he said in his own words, and I quote, "My dream is to appear before everyone with 25 such certificates." So he definitely plans to continue to make the people of Bangladesh proud, and he has his eye on acquiring more Guinness World Record certificates because he wants to go out and break more records. Mahmudul Hassan Faisal is just one example of the talent that flows through the people of Bangladesh.
Number 10 leads us to the Cleveland Stalker. Investigators reported that a man, Nicholas Davis, unwittingly surrendered himself to authorities at the Cleveland County Courthouse. Nicholas Davis's wife had filed a victim protective order against him after she claimed he had threatened her life and prevented her from contacting the police. While his wife was in the process of filing the order, he was captured on surveillance cameras outside of the courthouse, placing a tracker device on her vehicle. Subsequently, he proceeded to the sheriff's office to file a victim protective order against his wife, but the cops knew better at this point. They literally saw him doing the stalking. He's the one that put the device on her car. From there, we move on to the Arlington Stalker at number 9. A resident of Arlington in Jacksonville, Florida, recorded disturbing footage of a man who she believes was stalking her apartment by peering into her windows, particularly near the area where her 10-year-old daughter goes to bed. Now, the woman promptly filed a police report about the incident. However, despite possessing video evidence, she has been unable to identify the individual responsible for repeatedly looking into her windows during late hours. The man was captured on camera peering into her windows on 2 separate occasions. The Geelong Stalker comes next at number 8. Authorities launched an investigation in early 2023 to apprehend a serial stalker who had been caught on home surveillance cameras peering into residences and attempting to break in during early morning hours. Multiple incidents of the individual wearing an Adidas hoodie, tracksuit, pants, and a wide brim hat, face mask, and gloves were recorded by security cameras in Geelong, which is a city in Melbourne, Australia. Approximately 7 residents in the area reported encounters with this same stalker. According to a homeowner in the area, the stalker continued their attempts even when confronted by a barking dog as well as triggered sensor lights, and they eventually retreated when they were unable to access the property. In at the number 7 spot, we have Taylor Swift's stalker. There's a 36-year-old man from Indiana that was taken into custody and faced charges of stalking and harassing singer Taylor Swift. Mitchell Table, he allegedly started sending threatening messages to Taylor, as well as her management team and individuals who are close to her between the month of March to May of 2023. Mitchell Table traveled from Indiana to Nashville, Tennessee, where Swift resides, and he was discovered on Taylor Swift's property and promptly escorted off by authority. Later that same day, he showed up at the Nissan Stadium where Taylor Swift was scheduled to perform, and security personnel, of course, they recognized him and had to remove him from the premises. Singer Kelly Clarkson is also the victim of a stalker. Despite a judge's order, Kelly Clarkson's alleged stalker continues to disregard the set boundaries, as her security team reports multiple instances of the woman stalking her, showing up at her house, which all has been caught on camera. Now, in early 2023, Kelly obtained a temporary restraining order against 56-year-old Ugit Nicole Young, stipulating that she must maintain a distance of at least 100 meters from Kelly Clarkson's residence. And a judge granted this temporary restraining order after Ugit Young was appearing at Kelly Clarkson's home, and this happened at least 18 times since October 2022, often leaving notes and gifts for Kelly. Next up at number 5, we have Michael J. Norwood. At the Snake River Correctional Institution, inmate Michael J. Norwood hatched a plan to escape, which involved creating a homemade dummy. Utilizing peanut butter, clothes, and his own hair, Norwood, he constructed a life-size dummy resembling himself. However, his judgment proved to be severely lacking, as he believed that this imitation would effectively mask his absence and go unnoticed. Regrettably for Norwood, his escape attempt lasted a mere 30 minutes. He was apprehended within the prison recreation yard before he could make any progress towards his freedom. Number 4 leads us to Dr. Samuel Mudd. So we got to go back a little bit in history for this one. Samuel A. Mudd, he gained notoriety due to his alleged involvement in the elimination of President Abraham Lincoln. Consequently, he was sentenced to life in prison on Dry Tortugas Island for conspiracy as well as some other crimes. Despite his sentence though, Dr. Samuel Mudd planned to escape the island prison by stowing away on a supply ship. However, he was apprehended shortly after his departure, and as a consequence of his attempted escape, Dr. Samuel Mudd was not placed back in a regular prison cell, but rather he was confined to a dungeon. There was no chance of escaping this time. Moving on to number 3, John Dillinger. Amidst the Great Depression, John Dillinger, he rose to infamy with his notorious reputation for theft and robbery making frequent headlines. The mastermind behind John Dillinger's escape though was actually his attorney. With the assistance of a fellow inmate, John Dillinger successfully fled the prison and he embarked on a journey to Chicago in a stolen vehicle. Remarkably, John Dillinger managed to escape capture twice before, eventually being caught though, along with his crewmates and his girlfriend at the time in Tucson. The prisoner at the number 2 spot is Ted Bundy. Infamous Ted Bundy managed to orchestrate not one but 2 daring escapes from prison. Back in the year 1977, during a court trial, Bundy capitalized on an opportunity when the guard left to go for a smoke break, making his escape through an open window. However, his freedom was short-lived as he was caught in Aspen after being pulled over by the police while attempting to flee the city in a stolen car. Undeterred by this though, Ted Bundy, he hatched up a second plan of escape, and this time he broke through the ceiling of his cell, accessed civilian clothes from the janitor's office during Christmas break, and he made his way to Chicago again. Unfortunately for him, his reckless driving skills led to his downfall once again, and he was apprehended in 1978, marking the end of his spree of escapes and reign of terror. Ending this episode off at number 1, we have Griffith ap Llewellyn. Griffith ap Llewellyn, he was a legitimate firstborn son of Llewellyn of Lorworth, and he held the status of a prince but faced a life marked by exile and imprisonment. Griffith ap Llewellyn, he himself experienced captivity in the Tower of London under the the custody of members from the royal household. As the conditions grew unbearable for him, he devised a plan to escape his imprisonment. So from there, he went on to make a makeshift rope using tightly knotted bed sheets, and he was determined to regain his freedom, so he decided to descend from the building by jumping. But tragically, as he was a pretty heavy guy, one of the knots loosened during the fall from a height of nearly 90 feet, resulting in his ultimate end of life. So he didn't technically get caught by another human, but you could say that he was caught by the Grim Reaper instead. Starting at number 10, we have the longest single line of bikes. Riding a bicycle is a favorite pastime for many Bangladeshis. Bicycles can be used for recreation as well as for traveling. And just as a testament of Bangladesh's passion for bikes, there was a world record that was set for the longest single line of moving bikes back in the year 2016. There's a total of 1,186 cyclists that took part in this record-breaking event, and it was organized by a non-profit organization called BD Cyclists. Bangladeshi cyclists rode for 3.2 kilometers in the Purbanchal area to break this record. Moving on to world record number 9, the largest cleanup campaign. So to raise awareness among people that cleanliness isn't just limited to personal life, Dhaka South City Corporation, or DSCC for short, organized the Dhaka Cleanup Campaign one year. Now, this event attracted more than 20,000 people, and because of that, it created a whole new world record. Celebrities, police officers, and people from all different backgrounds, they all came out to take part in this event. Although the goal of the event wasn't necessarily to break any world record, but when people started to find out that, oh, this could actually break world record, people out of nowhere just started to join in order that the record could be set. And previously, the record for the largest cleanup campaign was set by India's Vadodara Municipal Corporation with only 5,000 people. So needless to say, the Bangladeshis, they majorly surpassed that old record. Now, number 8 brings us the longest marathon swimming. Bangladesh is a land of rivers, whole lot of water there, and as a matter of fact, back in the day, people used to joke about that kids would learn to swim before they learned to walk. Either way though, of course, Bangladeshis set this record, it was set by a 67-year-old man. His name was Kitindra Chandra Boisya, and he was able to break a world record for the longest marathon swimming. He swam a total of 186 kilometers for 61 hours non-stop to break the previously set record at 177 kilometers. Number 7 brings us the youngest 5-wicket taker in Test debut. Now, the people of Bangladesh, they're very passionate about the sport of cricket, and Naeem Hassan made history in the year 2018 by taking 5 wickets against West Indies in his Test cricket debut, and the 17-year-old at the time broke the previous record set by an Australian named Pat Cummins, and this is definitely a world record that Bangladeshi cricket fans should be proud of. Although the match didn't go in Bangladesh's favor, it definitely did highlight the potential for rising new cricket players. Now we look at the record at number 6, the largest human image of a hand. Now, the company Lifebuoy Bangladesh decided to promote hygiene in a very unique and interesting way on a day known as Global Hand Washing Day back in the year 2017. And because of that, it set a world record. 11,157 students gathered on the Dhaka Residential Model College field to form the world's largest human image of a hand. All of the students, they wore Lifebuoy branded gear, red t-shirts and hats, all to form this image of a hand. Starting at number 5, we have An Sang Hong. Now, An Sang Hong is also known as Christ An Sang Ong, and he was a founder of the South Korean Christian movement, and that's called the World Mission Society Church of God. Now, An Sang Hong, he claimed to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. And before joining his church, which is also known as WMSCOG for short, he was an active member of the Seventh-day Adventist Christian Christian denomination. Now, his teachings are pretty unique since he tells his followers to believe in God the Mother. And he's not referring to Mary, the earthly mother of Jesus. So the popular Christian doctrine is that there's God the Father, God the Son, who became Jesus, and then God the Holy Spirit. And Ansang Hong's teachings add a fourth dimension to God, God the Mother. A man by the name of Alan John Miller comes in at number 4. So before claiming that he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, Alan John Miller, or simply known as AJ, he worked as an IT specialist in Australia. According to him, he recalls being crucified, like he has vivid memories of this. Now, he claims that his partner named Mary Luck is also Mary Magdalene, who was a prostitute whose life changed after meeting Jesus, according to the Bible. Now, Alan John Miller's group is called the Divine Truth, and it's growing in Australia, but also in other parts of the world as well. People are literally giving up their jobs and all forms of earthly living to follow the Savior, as they view him as. Inri Christo comes in at number 3. So Inri Christo doesn't only claim that he is the Messiah, but he also dresses and looks quite similar to Jesus Christ, or at least similar to what it's believed that Jesus looked like according to certain depictions. Now, Inri Christo lives in Brasilia, which is the capital of Brazil, and most people, of course, just think he's just straight up complete crazy. But he has gained hundreds of followers around the world. And most of them, surprisingly, are women who just want to serve him. Inri Christo claims that God spoke to him back in the year 1979 and revealed to him that he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. And since then, he's been all over the world, about 27 countries, maybe 30 plus by now, and he shares this message. But some countries, including the UK and America, have expelled him. Moving on now to number 2, we have Moses Holangwani. Now, in the year 1992, when Moses was working as a jewelry salesman, apparently God came to him in a dream with a word that said that he was the Messiah. Now to his disciples, which number less than 100, is located in South Africa, and they call him the Lion of Kings, the Lord of Lords, or simply they call him Jesus. And those, by the way, were titles given to Jesus according to the Bible. According to Moses' teachings, Judgment Day is approaching very, very, very fast. And Judgment Day, however, will be triggered once he himself finds a wife. Now, many of his followers are actually giving up all of their possessions. People on pensions are sending him their full month's pension just to support him. And even people are abandoning their families just to follow this man who claims that he is Jesus. But we have reached to the number 1 spot. Number 1 goes to David Shaler. Now, David Shaler was once a British agent who worked for the MI5. However, back in the year 1997, he made a big mistake when he started accusing the MI5 as well as MI6 organizations of doing illegal activities. Now, he ended up losing his job and thrown into prison because of this, and no one after that would hire him. Even his girlfriend broke up with him. His life was just a complete mess. Shortly after that, though, David Shaler, he believed that he was the Messiah. He just, I don't know, popped up in his mind one day. He believes he was a modern-day Jesus Christ, the reincarnation of Jesus. He also claims that he has supernatural powers, that he can control the outcome of sports games, he can affect the weather, as well as a whole lot more. And now, unlike other people mentioned in this episode, David Shaler hasn't gained any followers though. Also, David is a cross-dresser. He really loves dressing up like women, and he loves it so much that he came up with an alter ego, like he goes by the name of Dolores Kane. According to some reports though, it was mentioned that he is homeless.
There's teeth sharpening. Historically, teeth sharpening was done for spiritual purposes, but in modern times, this form of modification is done just for fun. Now check out these neck rings. The Kayan women from Kaya State wear these brass coils around their neck to give the impression that their necks are elongated. Now, tongue splitting, that's exactly what you think it is, splitting your tongue in two. This is known as tongue bifurcation or forking. Many people do this to increase the sensation while kissing. It's a common practice to pierce your ears, but extreme ear piercings that can carry huge ornaments and objects, over time larger objects are inserted to continually increase the space of the piercing. Just hope nothing gets caught in that and it rips. Ouch. Now, one of the best known genital alterations is male circumcision. Circumcision is the operation of cutting away all or part of the foreskin on the penis. It's a very painful procedure. That's why most males have it when they're a baby, where they can't even remember the pain. Now, sub-incision is a lot more painful. This is where the urethra is open along the inferior surface of the penis for a varying distance between the urinary meatus and the scrotum. This was a common practice at puberty initiations among Australian Aborigines. It's also recorded to be a therapeutic process among Fijians, Tongans, and Amazonian Indians. Tattoos are made by inserting an indelible ink into the dermis layer of the skin in order to change the color of the pigment. And tattoo removal is a lot more painful than actually getting the tattoo. So if you get one, be sure that it is actually something that you want and also that the artist is good. Now introducing scarification. There are various methods of scarification, such as cutting the skin or branding it, all to create a raised type of scar on the skin. Now this adds a third dimension to its appearance, as well as it gives the designs on your skin a lot more depth than a regular tattoo. Here we have the polypropylene breast implants, also known as string implants. This is a form of breast implant using polypropylene developed by Dr. Gerald W. Johnson. Now, due to the number of its medical complications, it's been banned in Europe and the United States. So these implants absorb water very slowly. The polypropylene inside is similar to a yarn. This causes irritation to the implant pocket, which causes the production of serum, which fills the implant pocket on a continual basis. And this causes a continual expansion of the breast size after surgery. Whoa, how do ladies carry those things? It's not just boob and butt implants that are out there, but also there's eye implants where people can insert jewelry into their eyeballs. There's magnetic implants where magnets are placed under the skin. Subdermal implants where objects such as Teflon and silicone are placed under the skin to give a raised design. And now taking it further, an operation that is illegal everywhere, but some non-medical practitioners still do the procedure. These are transdermal implants. This is where objects are implanted under the skin but actually stick out of the skin. Waist training is also becoming very popular again. This is a process of gradually reducing the size of the waist using corsets. Now, foot binding was the practice to bind little girls' feet in order to stop them from growing too big. It was a Chinese tradition that was seen to be fashionable and attractive. The ideal foot size was considered to be about 4 inches, and tiny feet were seen as highly erotic by Chinese men. Now, we've seen that earlobes can be expanded to mammoth sizes, but did you know that lips can also be expanded just like that? This type of body modification is exclusively practiced by the Mercy, Chai, and the Terma tribes. This is where a series of plates are worn in order to stretch the lower lip. Now, this practice often began when a girl turned 15 or 16 years of age. Now, when we talk about body modifications, usually we're thinking some form of external decoration or pulling or stretching or cutting the skin. But in some cases, extreme weight gain and extreme weight loss is considered a body modification. Fattening rituals and excessive feasting serve the purpose of helping people become a lot larger to become more attractive, as well as there's some people that just don't eat and they're literally skin and bone. There's also genital beading. This is a process of inserting small beads made up of various material beneath the skin of the genitals. For most people, this is just decoration, but for others, they claim that it heightens their sexual pleasure. Corneal tattooing is tattooing the cornea. I couldn't even imagine anything touching my eye, like rubbing it hurts. But the cornea isn't the only part of the eye that can get tattooed. As a matter of fact, the whole white part that you see can be tattooed. Some people tattoo just parts of the eyeball, while others choose to change the color completely. And this is permanent. Try removing that if you change your mind. This next practice comes from Canada, but it's widely practiced in Japan, the bagel head modification. This is where saline is injected into the forehead, creating a temporary swelling and distortion that looks like a donut or bagel. It goes away after a while, so you don't have to be too careful with it. Now check out these extreme piercings, not just on your earlobes, but in your face and other parts of the body. Elfing now is a painful yet cute body modification, which is meant to give the human ears the appearance of an elf or a Vulcan. You see, ladies, you could be the real life Princess Zelda. You just gotta learn how to use magical powers.